Hello everyone, if you don't know me already, my name is Lauren-Jane, I'm the surgical doctor. Welcome. Tonight I'm going to be talking to you about the ups and downs of being a doctor. It's probably not the sort of things that you think about, which is why I wanted to make this video. So I'm just about to go for a night shift. I've not been able to sleep all day. I really don't enjoy night shifts. I'm a person who at 18, you know, when everyone else was going out and staying out till like 5 a.m, I was in bed at midnight, like I am leaving this party at 11:30. So night shifts are particularly hard for me. I don't enjoy them. But that is part and parcel of the job. So let's get into it and I will tell you all about the ups and downs of being a doctor. Oh, before we go, I should say, for those of you who don't know me, I'm about to start my 4th year of being a doctor. I'm in surgical training. I'm pre my exams, so I don't call myself a surgeon as yet. But that's where I'm going effectively. And I've got 2 children. One of them is 10 and one of them is 2. So I'm doing it. I'm trying to do it all. I'm not sure how well I'm doing it, but I am trying. So let's get into it. Okay, so I start off by telling you I love being a doctor. I love it. I love the job of being a doctor. All of the things that you probably think about it, unless it's like a Grey's Anatomy base, like running down the corridor, starting someone's heart, that stuff doesn't happen. Actually, it's quite routine and very rarely do I feel like I've saved someone's life. It's more, everything is always a composite, gradual process. But I love the patient contact. I love feeling like I've made people better. I definitely got into this job to serve, and that was something that I did for myself because I felt like that's what I needed to do. And I feel like whenever I'm here, I'm serving my community, and that's what I've come to do. And I think about that whenever I'm with a patient. There are so many ups about being a doctor. I love learning, so you're going to learn forever. As a doctor, I love the patient contact. I love surgery. There's literally nothing more gratifying in the world than taking. So in surgery, and I say this all the time when I do talks, you have usually, not always, but sometimes you can have a very clearly defined problem. Like for instance, you know, one of the valves in the heart, you know, it can get kind of narrowed like this. It should be like that. And you will have patients who come in and they'll come in for, you know, a replacement of this valve. And when you meet that patient pre-op, you know, they'll say they're really tired, do the operation, and they'll come back 6 weeks after the operation and they'll say to you, oh, I'm really cross with you. And you go, oh, why? And they'll say, I had given up my golf clubs because I had believed that this was just, you know, that part of my life had gone, and actually I am wandering around and I feel like I've got my life back. I'm back down at the golf club and I've got to buy all new golf clubs, and it's because of all of you, and I just want to say thank you. And people will come to you and they will say, I feel like 10 years the clock has been taken back 10 years, and that is a feeling that you cannot, like, you go home and you cook your dinner and you're standing there kind of like boiling your vegetables, steaming your vegetables, and you just think to yourself, wow. Or, you know, as in cardiac surgery, we would do what we call a coronary artery bypass graft. So you know how when someone has a heart attack and those arteries that supply the heart get blocked, and if, you know, it doesn't get replaced, then people have a heart attack, and you can do a process to sort of bypass that system, which hopefully prevents their heart attack. And you know, those operations are really life-saving. And I'm currently in paediatric surgery, and certainly in ped surg, I've done operations where we've removed cancers from children, and often they need chemo. It's never this child is now cancer free. But when, you know, you wake up in the morning and, you know, you go and see a kid on the ward who's got a big cancer, and by the time you scrub out at 5 o'clock, that cancer is on its way to pathology, and that child is hopefully you know, looking at the rest of their life. There's no feeling like that whatsoever. So it's amazing, but there are big downsides, and I'm going to tell you about these on my breaks tonight, and when I finish my shift, what feels like a very long time from now. Yeah, this is what I look like at the start of my shift. I bet I look like absolute God knows by the end of my shift, but I shall let you know how it goes. Hello, so welcome back. So it had been my intention to vlog in my breaks during my nights, but I was honestly just so tired. The reason I filmed during my nights is I really wanted you to see how much I love being a doctor. I really enjoy the clinical work, even though I hate nights. I absolutely hate nights. You can still see at the start of the video how enthusiastic I am to kind of do the work that I love. And I think seeing that should enhance effectively just how bad some of this stuff is, that this stuff that I'm about to talk about, dense. Well, it's almost like the hard bit is the job, isn't it? And the job is fine. It's all the admin and the infrastructure stuff, which is just a bit soul destroying really, and very unnecessary. So you may or may not know this if you follow me on Instagram, but I've written 2 books. So I wrote one during medical school, which I didn't get anywhere with, but I wrote another one between December of 21 and March of 22. And I've sent it out to a couple of literary agents, and it's starting to look like it actually might go somewhere. So Ash and I had been having some sort of, hypothetical conversations about, if I were to ever have a career as a professional author, would I quit medicine? And my response has been like a visceral gut punch. No, absolutely. I could never walk away from medicine. But then sometimes some of the stuff is just so frustrating that I think to myself, if 5 years from now, if I'm still labouring under all of this stuff, if I'm still being told that I can't book holiday, my rota doesn't come out till 2 weeks before, is there a point where I just go, do you know what, forget this? And I'm not there at all at the moment. But that's what I want to talk about in this video, is what are those things that you need to consider, or if you are a doctor that's watching this or a medical student, these things that you kind of need to be prepared for. So the first one is that I'm going to Disney World 2 weeks from now. It's a trip that's really important to me. It's the kind of thing that, obviously I had my son before I went to med school. He was 15 months. And it was the thing that really got me through med school, actually, thinking, I'm going to do this for him. And 18 months ago, Ash and I decided that we were going to go. So I sent out some emails. I'll go anytime you want me to go. Please let me know. And it just kind of hit with a lot of resistance. You just have to book it and see, effectively. And you can't really do that, can you? Because obviously you pay for a flight for 4 people, you pay for Disney World. It's not a cheap trip. I can't kind of bank on, wait for your rota to come out. My rota was given to me for this, so it was eventually I got HR to agree it very kindly, and it was based on, they agreed it because it was classed as a life-changing trip, and that's because obviously this is something I thought about through medical school. So HR approved it, but so I contacted my rota coordinator and said I saw HR approved. But I didn't get to see it approved on a rota until 3 weeks before the start of the rotation, which was only, 3 weeks ago, effectively, from now. So there's been a lot of uncertainty. I haven't really been able to look forward to the trip. We spent a lot of money, and I've been constantly like, well, what if I'm put on call? What am I going to do? And that's worn on me for 18 months now, is can I go or can I not go? And yes, I managed to get it approved as a life-changing trip, and that's because the definition of that is up to you, not them, to define. And that's great for Disney World, but what about next year when I just want to go to Greece? I feel like I should be able to book a holiday with my family. And I guess the official line is that you wait till the rota comes out and then you book it then, but it just doesn't make sense. But you're supposed to have 6 weeks. Even with 6 weeks though, you can't really book, especially if there's 2 of you. You need to kind of you need to make sure your rota matches their rota. Sorry, it's my cat on my printer is doing something over there. But yeah, so it's been really frustrating. Rota coordinators just not being reachable, and that sounds like a really little thing, but actually, because the rota coordinator basically controls your life effectively, if they don't respond to emails and it's difficult to get them, or it's difficult to get them to respond to emails, it's difficult to get them to respond to calls, kind of have to copy someone else in to get anywhere, it just ends up being really frustrating and draining. Things like, you know, there are mandatory courses that we have to do, and they're really expensive. So they cost like $6.50. And one of them I got back really quickly, because you pay yourself and then they're supposed to give it you back. And one of them I paid for about 8 months ago, and I'm still trying to get the money back for that. And the process should be really simple, but for whatever reason it's taking a long time. And it might be that I've done the wrong thing or whatever, but I've sent a lot, there's been a lot of back and forward emails, and I feel like I spend my time doing nothing but emailing people. Like my pay was wrong for pretty much all of my last placement, and it took me 6 months to fix that. So it's 6 months of emailing effectively, or something like that. And then, you know, while that was going on, I spent 18 months sort of emailing about this Disney World trip, and you know, now there's something wrong with my rota and I can't get a response. And it's just like, when you think about the downsides of being a doctor, the things that sort of push you to think about quitting, you think it'd be like understaffing, or you know, the hours that you're working, or, you know, the sadness that can be inherently involved in the job. And actually for me, I feel like I'm dealing with that sort of okay. I kind of expected that. I always knew throughout medical school that would be an issue. What I'm finding so draining is the stuff that should be easy. It's stuff like having a rota coordinator. That my last rota coordinator on my previous job was really good, and actually it made such a big difference to like my work. But there is a big part of me that feels really burned out and really drained by all of these admin sort of things. And so there's a part of me that thinks, you know, if I were, you know, having another job, and if I were publishing novels, would there be a point where I would say to someone, you know, when someone says, you know, no, you can't book this holiday, or, you know, you've sent like, you know, 8 emails trying to get somewhere with someone, that you just say, I've just had enough. And I know a lot of people who feel like this. And there's been some suggestion in the media that, you know, when students go through medical school, that they should be indentured to the NHS for 7 years or whatever, to pay back however much the NHS has spent training them. And I think we don't need to do that. We just there are certain things that we need to fix, and people need to listen. And I think these things can be achieved. I think increasing junior doctor satisfaction is not just a case of, obviously the NHS is underfunded. We need to make sure for patient safety that rotas are better, wards rotas are all better staffed, you know, but these are things, you know, that the government needs to fix. There are things that trusts can be fixing in terms of, you know, like junior doctor morale, which is making sure that, you know, junior doctors have access to holidays and to rota coordinators, and, you know, that they're getting their breaks, that there's hot food offered on night shifts, that occupational health are listening to people with health issues. And talk to a lot of you on Instagram, and I know that's not always the case for you. So in some ways at the moment, being a doctor can be quite bleak, or certainly that's how I feel at the moment. And the sad part about that is it's not the hard stuff that's bleak, it's the stuff that should be taken for granted. Because I've worked in private companies before, I've worked for Boots, I've worked in banking, and HR is a completely different experience than what you kind of get in the NHS. Not that it's HR in fairness, but just treated very differently in a private company than you have has been my experience. I only ever talk about my experience in any of these videos. And we can certainly do better, but I think we just need to listen to junior doctors, and because junior doctors are amazing. Junior doctors are really, really amazing. Like, people don't understand how hard what we do is. And that's a real shame. So I'm going to leave it there. Please like and subscribe. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much. Bye.